become extinct as a party. I mean, our Republican Party is going to become a dinosaur if we're not careful.
You know, we had a gay Republican candidate for mayor in the last election here in San Diego, and he couldn't even get the gay community behind him, which I found incredibly surprising.
Well, we've got our work cut out for us. I mean, for example, we have had many articulate African-American Republican candidates and congressmen, and the thing is they've had trouble getting the African-American vote.
Well, they're excoriated.
Yeah, the African-American vote is very, very partisan, and it isn't really, and one thing, to their credit, it isn't about color of the skin on candidates because they won't vote for a black Republican.
Yeah.
But what it brings out, though, is that we need to try harder, and it isn't just about that your skin has to be darker. It's about that your policies have to appeal to folks differently than Republicans have. And for one thing, you know, I've worked with the Congressional Black Caucus on trying to get rid of mandatory minimums on drug sentencing. I think nonviolent drug crimes, a lot of times disproportionately the people penalized are urban black youth, and I think they get longer jail sentences and more of them because they can't afford as good of an attorney.
Right.
White kid from a rich family in the suburbs in college gets a great attorney and uses powder cocaine and gets off. Kid in the inner city using crack cocaine doesn't get a very good attorney and gets prison time. And for a while, the penalties were actually different. They were harder on the crack cocaine
Right.
and powder. We've reformed some of that, but maybe the Republican Party needs to be the party that locking everybody up who makes a mistake, and I think it is a mistake to use drugs. I think they're a terrible scourge, and I think they do great damage to our kids. But at the same time, if it's my kid or your kid, I don't want to put them in jail for 20 years. And if Republicans have that message, they're not going to get any of the youth vote.
Well, let's talk a little bit about drugs and what are and are not drugs, because David Bronner from Dr. Bronner's Soaps up here in Escondido has been really pushing for some legislation to allow people to grow industrial hemp in this country, which makes absolute perfect sense from an economic standpoint. We're having to import it right now from Canada and China, and meanwhile, you know, we have farmers who can't produce anything. So
David Bronner, you know, is a great entrepreneur. He's very successful, and he's giving back some of his money to try to change the laws in this
Right.
country. He's actually helped us in Kentucky. I'm leader of the federal bill. Myself and Ron Wyden, conservative and liberal, are coming together to have federal laws that say states can legalize hemp. In Kentucky, I'm working with the Secretary of Agriculture. We have a Democrat congressman in Louisville who's now endorsed it, myself, and we're bringing together Republicans and Democrats and the farm community to maybe legalize hemp. So we're excited that Kentucky could be on the forefront with this issue.
Well, we'd certainly use it in California as well. But, Senator, how are we going to run headlong into this nation's drug policy, which has just decided that hemp is a drug?
Well, I think somewhat technology can kind of get beyond some of these old arguments. The sheriffs, many of them have been opposed to this in the past, but I think when we tell them that it's pretty easy, there will have to be some paperwork. You will have to tell the Department of Agriculture you're going to grow hemp, and they put you on a map, and the police, when they fly over it, can say, yep, that's a hemp field, not a marijuana field. The other argument is that while they look similar, I've been told that you don't want to grow marijuana in a hemp field to hide it because it cross-pollinates, and it takes the potency away from the marijuana. So people growing illegal marijuana will quickly discover that it destroys their crop to plant it with hemp. And but one of the things that fascinates me about hemp, you know, making clothes is one thing, rope is another thing, but really what fascinates me is the possibility of making paper out of it.
Right.
And I think this is an environmental issue that Republicans should get out there on and say, look, you know, we care about the environment also, and you can grow 1 acre of hemp in one season, and it's equivalent to 1 acre or 2 acres of trees grown over 15 years.
Yeah. Well, it certainly makes sense, you know, but again, we have a drug policy in this nation that somehow has roped hemp in with marijuana, and for some reason the federal government can't let go of it, and we have a president who said yes when he was a senator and no to hemp as a president, and has
beyond that, hemp is not a drug, first of all, but even beyond that, if we look at medical marijuana, I forget who the Republican candidate was, but I think this was in 2008, one of the Republican candidates, a person came up in a wheelchair from MS and said that medical marijuana helped their condition. Are you going to vote for the federal government not to let me have it? And this candidate said yes. And I think that's just crazy. I mean, the thing is abuse of all drugs, including legal ones like alcohol, are not good. But if someone can get some medicinal use out of this, and we can go forward just at least a little bit on some of these issues, I think Republicans could lead on these issues, because historically Republicans are the ones who have believed in more limited government with more state authority over things like this. And so we should be saying, if states want to change the laws, let them. That's a state prerogative.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the